Ever since Naruto lost Kurama, a lot of fans have been debating how strong current Naruto is. Many fans believe losing Kurama took away any relevance Naruto had in a fight. And while I can acknowledge that he is definitely weaker after the loss of Kurama, I don't think Naruto's been reduced to a non-factor in battle. In fact, I think there's a lot of evidence to support that Naruto is still near the top in Boruto in terms of power. And that's why today we're talking Naruto is still powerful without Kurama. But before we get into anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. So getting into this highly debated topic, there are a couple things we have to go over, because there are some misconceptions and there are some blatantly obvious things that a lot of fans are just overlooking. So when talking about the current power level of Naruto without Kurama, a lot of people are going to point out that he no longer has the insane chakra reserves that he had previously. And you're right, he literally lost all of Kurama's chakra. However, another thing a lot of people will point out is that he lost over half of his own chakra. And this is just a misconception, because you see, yes, he did lose half of his chakra when his chakra and Kurama's chakra collided together to create a fusion reaction that was Baryon mode. And Kurama literally said that once their chakras collide with each other and eventually burn out, they would each die. And we know this happens because once your chakra reserves reach truly zero, it means you die. And then a lot of fans after this pointed out that Naruto had a conversation with Sakura about his current power levels and about what's going on with his body, and she states to him that he no longer has superhuman chakra, and he states that he already knew that. It's something he already assumed. He knew his chakra levels weren't going to be on the same that they were with Kurama, a literal mass of chakra. And then she goes on to state that he'll probably not be able to utilize the insane level of jutsu that he was able to utilize in the past. And once again, he says he understands this. This is something that he already assumed, and how he fought before felt like a cheat code. However, what we have to analyze about this is that nothing in here is telling us that Naruto's base level chakra has actually been affected. All it is telling us is, number one, Naruto no longer has the superhuman chakra level he had when he tapped into Kurama's chakra, being able to do things like making tons of KCM shadow clones that all get their own Rasengan or own Rasen Shuriken that can each utilize a different Kekkai Genkai or utilize multiple Tail Beast Bomb Rasen Shuriken. These are all jutsu that are either tied to Kurama or they're tied to the chakra that Naruto gained access to with his bond with Kurama. So it makes sense that a lot of those things would no longer be able to be in use from Naruto. However, what's never actually stated is that his actual chakra network underwent any type of damage. And this is a very key distinction, because chakra is going to replenish. Nothing happened to Naruto's base chakra pool. Nothing happened to his chakra network. And we know, thanks to Shippuden, that the only thing that can really stop you from being able to infuse chakra would be any damage sustained to your chakra network. This is why in the early days of Shippuden, Naruto couldn't really use the wind-style Rasen Shuriken, because Tsunade herself said if he continues to use this ability, it will damage his chakra network to the point where I'm not able to heal it anymore, and he won't be able to wield chakra any longer. However, none of this is ever stated to have happened to Naruto in Boruto after he collided his chakra with Kurama. The only thing that was stated to happen was that Naruto used up about half of his chakra. However, one thing we know about chakra is that it eventually refills, and nothing from the manga or the anime tells us that Naruto's chakra pool was affected in any way. And yes, Naruto reached near zero levels of chakra, and that's why he literally almost died in those moments, but he didn't die, he survived. And another very important thing to note when we are talking about Naruto's current power level without Kurama is being able to use Sage Mode. And this is something that Lord Fukusaku literally says when he's first training Naruto in Sage Mode. And he says that there is a very important reason that Naruto can utilize Sage Mode. There was an important reason that Jiraiya and Minato could also utilize Sage Mode. And this is the fact that you need to have an already abundant source of chakra. And Naruto at the age of 16 had that abundant source to the point where he could not only become a perfect Toad Sage, even better than Jiraiya, but he could actually even go further beyond that and create 2 shadow clones to be able to create Sage Jutsu chakra. And this not only takes an absurd level of control, but also takes an absurd level of chakra. And now I know what you're saying, this is when Naruto had Kurama, so it doesn't count, right? Well, yeah, I guess. However, something you need to take into account is that Naruto literally does this again after losing Kurama. By the end of the Boruto anime, we see that Naruto needs to find Boruto and Kawaki because he is worried that they went after Code, so he decides to utilize Sage Mode. And in this moment, we see not only he goes into Sage Mode, but he also has 2 shadow clones behind him also going into Sage Mode. So this shows that he still has not only the level of proficiency with Sage Mode to not only enter Sage Mode himself, but also have 2 shadow clones undergo Sage Mode transformation as well, but he has enough chakra to not only only be stable as a perfect sage himself, but have 2 shadow clones be literal perfect sages. So all of this tells us that Naruto's base chakra levels are probably around the same that they've always been. If they hadn't, then he would struggle much more when it comes to things like going into sage mode, like creating shadow clones to go into sage mode and maintain that holding pattern to be released when he needs more sage jutsu chakra. So now that we've got the misconception out of the way about Naruto's current chakra level, how much chakra does that mean that Naruto really has? Well, honestly, a lot. I think it is fair to say that Naruto probably has the highest chakra level amongst any shinobi that isn't Killer Bee or part Otsutsuki. And considering the fact that's literally only a handful of people, I think it does stand to reason that Naruto has one of the highest chakra pools in all of Boruto at this point in time. He is half Uzumaki, and not only is he half Uzumaki, which is a clan literally known for their vitality and their massive chakra pools, but his mother was literally Kushina Uzumaki, someone who is touted as having more vitality and a higher chakra pool than even other Uzumaki. She was touted amongst a clan that was known for having great chakra pools, so she herself was singled out amongst a group like that. That tells us she had absurd levels of chakra. But then if we look at his other half, his father, we might not know a lot about the Namikaze clan, but what we do know is that Minato Namikaze had an absurd amount of chakra. Not only was he a perfect sage, but he could also utilize things like flying Raijin, a technique that utilizes a ton of chakra, and we see him multiple times spam this move. And not only that, he's able to move the entirety of the Nine Tails out of Konoha. He's able to deflect tailed beast bombs with the flying Raijin jutsu, and some of these things happened after he battled with Obito, and keep in mind, he won that battle. So considering the fact that both of his parents have shown the ability to have massive chakra pools, it does stand to reason that Naruto himself does have an insane pool of chakra even without Kurama, and this is actually supported throughout Shippuden multiple times. But the only real instance that we have to take a look at is his actual battle against Kurama when he's trying to master KCM1. You see, at this point in time, Naruto isn't using any of Kurama's chakra, and at this point in time, he's battling half of Kurama to a near stalemate. However, the stalemate quickly shifts once Naruto starts to utilize Sage Mode, and once he activates Sage Mode, he's able to get the upper hand in the battle against Kurama, using things like his Wind-style Rasen Shuriken, like his Sage Art Massive Rasengan, or another very powerful technique, his massive Sage Art Rasengan Barrage that leads to Kurama being taken out. And yes, you could say that he eventually got the help of Kushina, and that led to him being able to defeat Kurama. I think it does stand to reason that Naruto showed the capability to actually hurt Kurama and do serious damage in this battle. And he also showed the ability to utilize a great number of jutsu that we see him use throughout Shippuden, all just backing up the fact that Naruto still has an absurd level of chakra without Kurama, and he could still pull off some pretty crazy jutsu that are out of the realm of possibility for a lot of other shinobi. And another thing we have to talk about when it comes to Naruto's actual current power levels is we have to acknowledge the fact that Naruto can utilize all of the changes in chakra nature. He can also utilize yin and yang release. Now, whether or not he can still use yin yang release, that is up in the air. A lot of that was tied to his Sage of Six Paths power, and because we don't know if he still has that ability after the loss of Kurama, we have to wait and see about that. However, we also know that he can use multiple Kekkai Genkai, and even if you want to say that things like his lava-style Rasen Shuriken were abilities that were tied to the fact that he had Sage of Six Paths chakra and had a connection to all the other tailed beasts, this would actually support the fact that he can still utilize a lot of those same Kekkai Genkai. And here's the reason I say that. Yes, he probably lost his Sage of Six Paths chakra because he no longer has Kurama's chakra. However, you know what he does have? A little piece of each and every single one of the tailed beasts, not named Kurama. Because you see, although Kurama burned away all of his chakra, none of the other tailed beasts had their chakra burned away. And although this doesn't mean that Naruto is going to have a new wellspring of chakra, because he doesn't gain an actual chakra boost from having a piece of all the other tailed beasts, instead he gains the ability to utilize their Kekkai Genkai. And this is why we see him in his battle against Kaguya be able to utilize all of their Kekkai Genkai into different Rasen Shuriken. Now, would he be able to do this exact same move again? No, this is one of the things that Sakura said he wouldn't be able to do anymore. This is a superhuman feat that you need superhuman levels of chakra to achieve. However, it does stand to reason that something like just the lava-style Rasen Shuriken would definitely be achievable with Naruto's current power level. And considering the fact that nothing has told us or shown us that Naruto shouldn't have access to all those Kekkai Genkai anymore, because nothing has been said about him losing the small piece of all the other tailed beasts, it does stand to reason that he can still utilize all these insane different Kekkai Genkai. And if you add that to his utilization of Sage Mode, it also puts into perspective just how powerful current Naruto truly is. But that being said, we also have a couple other really good gauges of of how powerful Naruto is without Kurama, because he also fights in base quite a few times. And considering the fact that a lot of these times Naruto already befriended Kurama, once he is using any of Kurama's chakra, there is a visual representation of this. So in his fight against Sasuke at the Final Valley, we see that Naruto starts out the fight in literal base. And considering the fact that Sasuke has not only his EMS, but also his 6 Tomoe Rinnegan activated, it does stand to reason that he is utilizing all of the power that the Sage of Six Paths gave him. And yet Naruto was still going toe-to-toe with that version of Sasuke in literal base. So that gives you an idea of just how powerful base Naruto is. But another example of his power in just base is his fight against fused Momoshiki, because Naruto was able to literally box with a fused Momoshiki, someone who was implied to be even more powerful than Kaguya. And the fact that we saw Momoshiki literally one-shot all the other Kage, meanwhile Naruto, after being weakened and in just base form, was able to go toe-to-toe with him, trading blows with him for a decent amount of time. It shows just how capable Naruto still is in just his base form, which is even crazier considering the fact that Naruto wasn't even in Sage mode. So even the feat of being able to go up against a fused Momoshiki isn't the top of what this version of Naruto can actually achieve, because he wasn't even using Sage mode at this point in time. If he had been using Sage mode at that point, I feel like it would stand to reason that he would have had an even greater advantage in that battle than he did, and he probably would have performed even better than he did against fused Momoshiki, at least up until the point where he activated KCM2 and Sage of Six Paths chakra. Now, another thing that is going to be mentioned is Naruto's speed. He definitely got nerfed in the speed department, considering the fact that he literally was faster than the speed of light when he had Kurama's chakra, and we saw him achieve feats of speed in Naruto Shippuden and also in Boruto that far surpassed anything we ever saw before from any other character. However, even that being said, although Naruto's speed has definitely diminished, he is still one of the fastest characters in all of Boruto, and there are a couple things to prove this point. Number one, with just Sage mode in the 4th Great Ninja War, he was able to dodge the Raikage's one-fingered assault. And considering the fact that the 3rd Raikage and the 4th Raikage are said to be on pretty equal footing in terms of power, it does stand to reason that if the 4th Raikage was almost as fast as KCM1 Naruto, that the 3rd Raikage is about that same speed as well. And if Naruto is able to dodge a straightforward attack from the 3rd Raikage, it does stand to reason that Sage mode Naruto is probably pretty close in terms of speed to where he was in KCM1. Now, does that mean they are exactly equal? No, absolutely not. I would say Sage mode Naruto would rank just below KCM1 Naruto, but above the 3rd Raikage and above the 4th Raikage. And this puts him in a pretty exclusive class, considering the fact that only Otsutsuki, Sasuke, and the Yellow Flash of the Leaf had shown faster feats in Naruto and in Boruto. And while yes, a lot of people are going to point out that Naruto still had Kurama when he was able to do this, that realistically doesn't come into play because Naruto wasn't using any of Kurama's chakra at that point in time. That was before Naruto had gained the ability to utilize Sage mode mixed with Kurama's chakra, so it does stand to reason that feat should come into play when we're talking about Naruto's overall speed, at least his reaction speed. However, another thing that absolutely comes into play when talking about Naruto's reaction speed is something that we get from Naruto Retsudan. You see, throughout the Retsudan series, Naruto is suffering through this chakra illness, a chakra illness that Hagoromo suffered from. And in Naruto Retsudan, which is the final part, we see that Naruto is at his weakest. But yet, even despite this, in just base, without using any of Kurama's chakra, Naruto is able to dodge a photon beam. And photon beams travel at the literal speed of light. And considering the fact that Naruto was able to dodge this attack, it means that Naruto's reaction speed is probably pretty close to the speed of light. And considering the fact that not only was he not utilizing Kurama's chakra in that moment to dodge the attack, but also that this was a weakened form of Naruto, so even his base form was a little bit weaker than usual, it does stand to reason that current Naruto could absolutely dodge attacks that are about the same speed as light, putting Naruto pretty high up when it comes to speed in the Boruto universe. And another thing we really can't overlook when we're talking about current Naruto, he has probably the best battle IQ and best battle experience of anyone in Boruto that isn't named Sasuke. He has more experience fighting Otsutsuki than almost anyone else, and he's done so successfully. His taijutsu again was able to go toe-to-toe with fused Momoshiki in just base. This keeps Naruto in the upper echelon when we're talking about strong characters in Boruto. But another thing we have to keep in mind is that Naruto a lot of these times wasn't utilizing Sage mode, and with Sage mode you get Frog Kumite, and Frog Kumite is a very unique form of fighting. Not only does it utilize a different form of taijutsu, but it also implores nature attacks, and we saw this when he was fighting against the Six Paths of Pain. When he was going toe-to-toe with the Predapath, he was having all of his attacks seemingly dodged, thanks to the link between their vision. However, Naruto was utilizing Frog Kumite, and thanks to this, he was actually able to land a solid hit against the Predapath, so much so that it actually knocked the Predapath out of the fight, at least for a little bit. And this happened because when you utilize Frog Kumite, not only does your punch do damage, but nature energy actually surrounds your punch. So if you were going to throw a punch and someone were to dodge it, as long as that punch is still relatively close to the person, the extension of nature energy would actually ensure that the person would still end up getting hit. And considering the fact that these are attacks that literally cannot be seen, this is something that would absolutely help Naruto when it comes to battling Otsutsuki or even the Shinju or any strong adversary in all of Boruto. And I think that's actually why they decided to stop utilizing Frog Kumite, because it would have allowed Naruto to defeat a lot of the other enemies that he's come up against in Boruto. It is an incredibly underrated aspect of Sage Mode. And if they start to allow Naruto to tap into that version of Sage Mode once again that he was able to use against the Six Paths of Pain, I think it does stand to reason that Naruto would be one of the strongest characters in all of Boruto and absolutely be relevant in any battle he was a part of. But I'm interested to hear from all of you. How powerful do you think current Naruto is? Do you think he could still go toe-to-toe with a lot of the Otsutsuki or a lot of the top tier villains in Boruto? Or do you think he's been relegated to a non-factor in most battles? Let me know in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.